Devrim.
Hi.
Hi, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Good. Makes me happy to see you people again and again. It's been such a long time.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Khattab, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. It's nice to meet you again.
Likewise, likewise. And please welcome to come on to camera and video.
Okay, I will.
Good. Prof. Shaliza, hi.
Hi, Viren.
Hi. Good. We'll start in, wow, this is good. So next time we run the webinar, we're going to start 10 minutes earlier so people can join and we can start directly on time. I think we're going to make that this thing. Congratulations on your graduation. I believe you had a very good graduation event. Yeah. Yeah. You're on mute.
Yes, it is so. Yes, it's so good. Actually, I like it so much.
Yeah, I was hearing there's a very, very good graduation event out there.
Yes.
And which country are you from?
Egypt.
Hmm?
Egypt. I'm from Egypt.
Right. Egypt.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So you know Ziad, yeah?
Who's Ziad?
Ziad Khalifa.
No.
No, from STDF. Oh, you don't? Okay, right.
Oh.
Not STDF. He's from British University.
British University?
Yeah.
In Egypt?
Yeah, Ziad Khalifa, LIF 4, yes. Hi, Juliana. Hi. Good. Mai is there. Good. That's almost, yeah. So that's good. That's good. That's a good number to have. Like I was saying, next time we run the next webinar is really beautiful. It's on resilience and productive and how to manage time in January. So in these days of being busy, and a lot of you have 2 jobs, an academic job sometimes and an entrepreneur job. And I can see Prof. Shaliza out there. So it's a very interesting.
Even within the academic job, it's like multiple jobs there.
Yeah, academic job. It's service to the community, research, teaching, bidding to British Council, and and then obviously trying to set up a venture. So we'll do a very interesting piece on productive time management and how to avoid burnout and resilience with Dr. Sarah Jones from City University, who has expertise in this area. But what I was saying is we'll start 10 minutes earlier. So first principle of time, I start early, right? Start earlier. So, and we can then finish on the dot rather than go 1 hour 15. So we just want to do that. Right. And there is Dr. Van Faslida. For her, it's also 10 o'clock at night. There she is.
Hello.
She's surviving on cookies. Fantastic.
Not tonight. I'm all right tonight.
Not tonight. Good. Okay. And we met Alice. Is it Alice, Juliana?
Yes, she is Italian, and but you can call her Alice or Alice, just like you call me Juliana or Juliana. It's absolutely
Juliana.
fine. Yeah.
Now falo Portuguese.
To the bay. It's all good.
There we are. So yeah, if she comes on camera, maybe you can introduce her. Hi, Alice. There she is. Oops, she's not there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, just technical problems as usual.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this
Hello,
is
everybody.
the new traffic or delayed train, so we're all good there. At least we don't have to do the housekeeping, right, Viren? We don't have to tell people where the toilets are. They already know.
And what to do in a fire alarm.
In case there's a fire alarm, really run, because there's no fire alarm planned during the Zoom call. So, yes.
Yeah, the only fire alarm in the Zoom calls is deliveries when the doorbell rings.
Yes.
Right. Hello, Mr. Mahmood.
Hello, Mr. Viren. How are you?
Right. Yes, I remember. So we're going to discuss inflation. We're not forgotten. Good. We are.
Thank you very much.
Juliana, do you want to just introduce Alice?
Yes, I've introduced myself only recently, joined the team, the LIF team back in September. Seems like a long time ago, so much has happened. And now we have a new team member. Holly left the team at the end of this month, and Alice joined us. Alice, or Alice, she's has got experience, international experience, lived in China, and worked for the UN as well, and the OECD. So yes, very much happy to have her in the team. Can you say hi, Alice?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for this kind introduction. And I've already put a post in the group, and it has been a pleasure to meet you also in the previous meeting and the workshop. I was here, and yeah, this is amazing, and it's been a good start for me, and I'm thrilled to listen to this workshop today too.
Okay, well, hopefully we're not going to workshop a lot. This is more a fireside chat, but I do have 2-3 bits to cover off. I have 2-3 bits to cover off because you guys had asked a very wide variety of questions, and there was no way I could cram in everything as an experience in the last one. So I have a couple of things to cover off out there. And you know what? We're 12. I'm going to make a start, and people can join in out there because we're just going to deal with the Q&A thing out there. So over to you guys. So we did a whole bunch of things. We discussed a large part was around competition. Then we discussed when is competition relevant, when it's not, when is it scary, when is it actually quite unreal, and we overestimate it. And then we said if it's real, what we might do. And sometimes even if there's no competition, you may need to push the customer a little bit, called nudges, to get them to do. And there is behavioral pricing techniques in there, not bribing, behavioral pricing techniques in there to get that done. So I've shared sort of a whole range of techniques, all driven from the various challenges you had thrown at us as a part of the registration process. So thank you for that. So can I just check, it wasn't a part of the plan, but we made a summary document, bullet point summary document from the last. Was that, did you guys find that useful?
Yes, it is.
Yeah? Right, good, okay. So over to you, question time, over to you. You can come up with your particular innovation, challenge, pricing, positioning, anything. Let's start.
Can I start, Biren?
Please, yeah.
Okay. I want to check with you about the pricing strategy that I'm using. You know, we are not in the market yet, but the quantification of the WellShift app is done through quantifying each value proposed within the app. But after aggregating all the values that I believe they will be useful for the user, I found that it was a very large price, and the pricing done through benchmarking and checking the previous behavior of user. For example, there is 2 types of behavior, two methods of quantifying the value. One of them is by benchmarking the value with similar applications or services, and the other one is by comparing the user behavior. For example, one of the values that we are providing is monitoring your vital signs and abnormalities. So this is done through wearable, or can be done through screening in hospitals for non-patient individuals. But after aggregating these 2 numbers together and took some percentage from them, then aggregate all the values, the number of the or the price of the product was almost $400. But what I did is I took only for our product, as we are not in the market, we don't have a brand, our user may not use all the values that is available in the app. So I took only 20% to 30% of the price. Still, this is my assumption. I added this as one of the prices in Kickstarter campaign and Indiegogo, but it worked well for Kickstarter. But in the real world, I did not test it yet because we are not in the market yet. I will do the same. But do you think if there is any other approach of quantifying the value proposed for users, and how can I aggregate the values that may not be used for paying customer? They may need such a service for a freemium account only.
All right, lovely. Thank you, Veer. So I'll hold the thought, and it's a very good thing of how do you price value and what are the various. Sometimes pricing is not an exact science. It's a science and an art, because you've got to look at pricing from a number of lenses, because ultimately the price that works is the one that customer is willing to buy. Right? And it's the same thing that happens when you're trying to sell your business or do a valuation. You can use all the models of valuation. Ultimately, the right valuation is the one in which the transaction is done. Yeah, yeah, right. As which the seller is willing to sell and the buyer is willing to buy. Yeah, and different lenses give different models. And one of the key things in your case is comparables, and I'll come back to that. I want to pick a Veer's example, and I want to go over to Juan Faslida. So Juan, you have a product, right? You have a product which does soil testing for moisture and humidity content and can help plantation owners, right? So if you do the right nutrients in the soil, right? And you have a testing mechanism and you have a reporting mechanism. So if you're able to provide that timely data, for example, to the plantation owners, correct?
Yeah.
You can increase their yield. Is that correct?
Something like that, but it's actually more of assisting the fertilization program, because if they already know, I think they've got more experience in knowing the moisture content and all that, but it's more of the quality assurance practice and to give some evidence onto their fertilization exercise. Yes.
Yeah. So if you look at Juan's case, it's she can actually quantify her value proposition, and she can go to the plantation owner and say, either I can increase your yield, which she's saying is not that much the case, or I can make your fertilization quantities more reliable to the needs of the crop. So you don't over-fertilize and don't under-fertilize. Either you don't spend too much money, or you don't under-fertilize and get poor yield, because I can correlate the things, right? So when she can go, and hers is a proposition into a business. When she can go to a plantation owner, she can say, there is an as-is model. If you don't use my product, here are your yields, or here is your fertilization costs, or here is the variability of output. And if you do use my thing, I can save you time, effort, cost, money. Right? So there's a value proposition, and she can put a price onto that. A quantified value proposition often works much better in a business-to-business environment. Yeah. Now, Abir, you may say that your product may be $400 because it can prevent heart attacks. I'm just saying for an example, right? But an individual doesn't feel like that they're ready for a heart attack. Therefore, they should be able to put a quantity and a price on it, right? So you've got to see what industry you're positioning your product in. What industry you're positioning your product in, and in that industry, what are the comparables? So for example, I mean, I don't know where exactly they sit, but if you look at meditation apps at the moment, they fall into, typically you can get a meditation app, which is either £3 a month as a subscription or £10 a month as a subscription. And this goes back to price ceilings of what people are willing to pay for apps. £3 a month is a very interesting one because people will say because what they do is they use behavioral pricing and say for the price of a cup of coffee a month, you're able to do that. £10 a month is another price ceiling because a lot of apps and software and subscription services have this sort of ceiling on there. So if it's a simple wellness app in that sort of region, you already have that. Then the question is it costing you more to deliver that service or not? And if it's a digital product, usually the marginal cost of having extra customers is not much. So, right, so you need to think about, it doesn't matter that if you add up everything out there because it's an insurance out there, the people who might be willing to pay for that £400 price is probably a hospital or a clinic or a center that has a duty of care to these people, or where a failed care then increases the social cost or hospital cost or the other costs, right? So again, you got to see who you're pricing it for. Yeah.
Yeah, and so based on that, we can tackle the right customer segment, and we can innovate more or scale up our startup for different products with the different offerings that are packaged in one product at first. Then we are disseminating that based on the need of each customer segment, right?
Yeah, and it's a very, very different thing to price for the B2B.
Yeah.
And a very, very different thing to price B2C. So if you're MedTech, for example, in the UK, you're basically pricing for National Health Service, right? You are pricing for them because your consumer is not buying all these devices, right? And they're the one. So think about to whom does it matter that they're saving the social cost, economic cost, time, effort, and money to buy your product. Now, if your product is for extreme users, this is slightly different. If your product is for extreme users who have a condition, and then you're competing not with the meditation app, but you're competing with the cost of a psychologist per hour, then it's a different pricing, right? You've got to see where are you positioning your product, and to the customer, how are you communicating the alternative as to where the value lies?
Can I ask the last question, Viren, here?
Yeah, then we'll move on to other people. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Regarding extreme users, let's say we are positioning ourselves for extreme users to use WellShift as a self-care tool, which is the case. But if we are wrong after penetrating the market, is it okay to reduce the value proposed and based on that minimize the price, or it will harm the brand? We should test it
again,
more.
yes. Okay. So the only ego that will be hurt is you, because when you go and launch and pricing is wrong, the whole world is not going to know. Because if the whole world knows about your product, you're already successful.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be embarrassing for 4 people or 10 people or 30 people, right, who saw it. And then and I'll come back to this, I've got a session on discounting. You do not discount. You change the proposition and you change the price.
Okay. Thank you.
Because if it didn't sell for 9 and now you're saying you're selling for 6, that's not a good message.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. So you have to see from the problem are you solving. Are you a substitute for psychotherapy? Are you a substitute for meditation? Are you a substitute for an acute condition that costs either the user or a hospital some amount of money? And that's where you define your positioning, and that's where you'll find the floor and ceiling of pricing. And you might find the floor or ceiling is pricing, and then you think that is fair, and then Google will come in and do it for 0. You're back to square one. Then you've got to change your business model.
Right. Thank you.
So Fatima is asking, how are you going to do pricing for license fee and royalty? What is the proposition, Fatima?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is regarding, you mean my proposition is that I'm developing a device that can be able to measure cholesterol without taking blood. So this is like a cholesterol meter. So the problem here is that it is non-invasive. And recently, I have already a potential industry who are interested to innovate that product. However, they got difficulty in getting funding, because when we apply the funding, what the funder says that our innovation that we use using the technique of the bioimpedance that we are using, so they are expecting us to measure as good as the smartwatch, you know, like the Samsung smartwatch and so on, because our device is portable. So we have, it's just like a phone, it's a portable. So they want something to be wearable. So then my problem is that I have two problems. One is getting funding to accelerate the innovation from TRL 6 to TRL 8. Second one is how do I want to do for the pricing to license to the industry?
Right, fantastic. So you are pricing for B2B, right? Not for the end consumer. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I am actually, guys, I'm going to just show you the little model to do that. I'm going to share how to quantify the value proposition. So I spoke about it last time, spoke about it this time. Some of you may have seen this because you've all done the LIF program through different years, different providers out there, right? Have you guys seen this as a value proposition as a part of business model?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, right. So value proposition basically is that customers have gains to be made. They want to avoid pains or losses, right? Which is time, money, effort. And they have certain jobs to be done, right? They have certain jobs to be done. So in your case, Fatima, a customer may have a job to be done to go to a clinic to get a cholesterol test because it's a blood test as part of a bloods. Come back and do that. For them, the job to be done is get into the car, get into the clinic, pay the fee, come do, or go to a GP. So that's the job to be done. Pain is the invasive nature of it, and for high cholesterol cases, might be there, right? So this is a well-defined thing. So on the right-hand side is customer problems. On the left-hand side is your services, right? So this is by Strategizer, very commonly used model out there. And what you want to do is your product is to create gains, avoid pains, and not in a medical sense, but avoid pains out there, and have a range of products and services. What we do sometimes, and again, we may have done it in one of the sessions and a community webinar out there, is that you can do a little benefit map, especially if in a B2B world, right? You can do a little benefit map and turn around and say, what is your, I've just shown an example of a particular innovation that uses wood pellets instead of coal for boilers, right? So we say the change it makes is that it's lighter to use, they don't need any preparation time, et cetera, It creates some benefits and out there, and you can put monetary value on the benefits, or you can put the time saved on the benefits, or you can put a convenience cost. You can put something, a reduction on carbon footprint. And the idea is to try and put some numbers on this. So this is just a diagram, which is very good for raising investment. But in the article I shared with you is that you do a value proposition, a quantified value proposition, where you say, without my product, it takes you that long, that much money, you do that many patients, and it creates that many hiccups or that many errors. With my product, it reduces the time, it's non-invasive, more customers show up because it's not painful to get that thing. And instead of taking 15 minutes to do the bloods, you can do it in 30 seconds. And you can see 25 patients in 1 hour instead of seeing 10 patients in 1 hour. So if you're a private clinic, your productivity increases so much, your capacity is so much. And it's a very simple Excel-based, your engineers, it's a very simple Excel-based activity. Without your solution, what is the time, effort, cost, money? With your solution, what is the time, effort, cost, money? And I've already sent you guys an article to read up on this. And this is what you want to do, especially if you're in a B2B world. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah. And in a B2B world now there, because your B2B customer can't say they put it in the Apple Watch and they say only give it to us, because either it's for them or it's for the rest of the world. So it's usually it's usually quite a big decision to decide, are you selling to business or are you selling to consumers? And even when you decide to sell into the business, this is the other thing I wanted to say, and I mentioned this in my summary, you have to decide, are you selling to the end retailer, wholesaler, distributor, where in the value chain you're selling? Because licensing, if you're licensing, then you probably are you're basically not getting involved in the business. You're just licensing your technology. Somebody else is commercializing and running it. So you get a lesser reward, but you don't get the risk of running a business. But the more on the value chain you get closer to the consumer, you're taking on more risk because you've got to market it, you've got to hire staff, you've got to put the production processes out there. So that's the second decision you need to take. Licensing, the pricing is lower, but the headaches are fewer. Okay, so these, yeah, I mean, you've seen this in the article I've sent, but that is just the one thing I wanted to share. The way to do it but it typically makes sense because then you aggregate it for every customer who might come into the thing. It usually makes sense to do it for a business. Does that help in terms of a value?
A little bit, because at the moment, how I value the licensing fee is by quantifying the time that I have done for the research grant that I already evaluated, and then the licensing fee that I have to pay for patenting and so on. So then including all those costs and then plus some margin. That's what I evaluate now. At the moment, I quantify
Right. So that's
it.
a very, very interesting point. We'll come back to that because Fatima raised a very interesting point on cost plus pricing, which was another thing you guys raised. So I will come back to that. So we will come back to cost plus pricing, but I just want to pick on one more question out here. Question from Robert on how to factor non-equity grant money in your pricing since you don't have to return it. Should we use it to drive the product pricing down? Okay, so Robert, the simple answer is no. Because source of funds and use of funds in a company are completely different things. Yeah. There is actually no free money, and I'll tell you why. Because if you went in for grant money, its chances are it's highly competitive, right? Which means that you had to compete against lots of other people to do it, right? If you went in for debt, you would have to pay the money back in equity. And if you went in for equity, you're obviously giving a share of your business and something and control and future profits. So if you've got grant funding, good on you. Use it well. Use it to invest in the business to innovate more, better, faster out there. The price you charge the customer really is a function of the value you're creating for them. Right? So just because the government decided to discount you doesn't mean you have to discount your customers unless that's the only way to go, unless that's the last option left on the table. So that's my simple answer. Now you may have a more complicated situation. I do not know, but that's my, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that insight, Aviret, because currently one of so our business model is we're working with either a B2B customers or a B2G customer, business to government. And when we are dealing with so business to government, so they typically ask, for example, on, let's say, discounted pricing in order for us to get into them. So I'm thinking if since we have, let's say, a source of fund which is we don't have to return, so can we use it as a like our buffer money to offer, let's say, discount? Yeah.
And my immediate answer to that would be, just because it happened to be grant funding, you should treat the money the same way as if it was debt.
Okay.
Right?
So
right?
yeah,
That means that either it was or equity, either it is to be returned back to the shareholder, returned back to the bank. The only purpose that should serve is to invest in the business to bring better products or services and pay for expenses. But you shouldn't take a grant given from somebody and pass that on benefit to someone else out there. So I will come back to this very, very important point about discounting, because people have raised it before. So bear with me, and I'm just going to bring this other slide up for a second. And thank you. I really appreciate it. Really, really interesting, challenging questions. Right. Okay. Yep. So I got some thoughts here, right? People have raised this more than once. So Robert, you may have been the very person who may have raised it in the questions out there. So the question is when to discount, when not to discount, and how to do it. So I'm going to ask you guys, right? I'm going to ask you. So there's nothing in the slide. There are 3 questions. I just wanted to show you. I've developed a slide. That's all. Nothing more than that. So I'm going to ask you a question. You've launched a product in the market, right? Spend 2 minutes thinking, when should you not discount? You feel like discounting is the right way to go, right? But something tells you it may not be the best strategy. Just think about it. Spend a minute and think about it. Yes, Mahmoud.
I do not do discount when I am sure that my customer, when I realize, I can resolve his problems 100%, that I don't do discount. I am sure.
Right. So when you know you're 100% creating value, you don't want to discount out there. Maybe the question wasn't phrased the best way from my side, right? When do we think, I think Robert had a more interesting way of asking, right? When do we think that our reaction should be to discount to the customer?
If our margin, of course, when we are pricing mechanism, we put a margin for discount already, we know that.
Right, good. So that is more cultural, right? When we know that customer will ask for discount, and then we've got something in there.
Exactly, yes, without affecting our profit for money.
Yeah, right. That means, and that is what's called gaming, right? You know they're going to ask for a discount. You put that up, you bring it back. Good. Maya, please go ahead. Maya, yeah.
Yes, sometimes by observation, I find that they put the price, but they speak that it's discounted price, which is not really a discounted price, but it is the actual price. Just to give an impression for the customer that he's doing him a favor or he's giving him an extra advantage, but in fact, it's the actual price. So what do you think about that? Isn't it happening?
Right. So yes, it's a very good point. I'm just going to go to Devram. Devram, you had your hand raised as well.
For example, for us, if our customer is academic person, we can give them discount price. But if it is a company that's gonna use our product, then we will not give them the same price. Is that a good example? I don't know.
Okay, that's a good, okay, right. So there's something. Sorry, I'm going to put the light on. I just realized that it's not very dark. Oops. So education discount, discount. Jesus, sorry. Phone should be off. Sorry about that. And I do not know how to kill Telegram on my, let me just try and do that so it doesn't. Okay, so we had that. All right, Abir, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think we cannot add discount when we are penetrating the market when we are early in the market, because we are not validating our pricing strategies yet, and we are not validating the product price and the sales channels. So we should be iterating on the pricing rather than adding discount. This is for not adding a discount, but we can use discount after having, let's say, a solid hypothesis and path of pricing in the market, because we are already existing and we have different products, or this product is already in the market from a while. Then we can add discount for sales channels so that we can increase the customer base that we have.
Right. So you used the word discount, but you used it in 3 different contexts, right? So I just want to clear, right? So the first one you used it is in the context is price adjustment. That's not discounting. Because discounting is when you're selling for 5 and they say, no, give it for 4.5, and you get into a bargaining. That's discounting. What you're talking about is not selling for 5, maybe it'll sell for 2. That's price adjustment and testing in the market. That's a slightly different thing. So I just want you to hold that thing. Discounting for sales channels is really not a discounting. That's just that's a sales commission or a marketing commission. That's perfectly valuable because the channel does a job for you and you can't reach the customer, so you have to reward them for it. That's just a margin in the business rather than a discount. That's almost like a commission, right? Again, that's not the classical sort of discounting thing. So I wanted to distinguish these 2 things because these are very normal practices that we want to do out there. So let's just address all the points that have come together, right? Make a distinction between price adjustments when you're launching into the market. That's not discounting, because the only person who believes that the price should be X is you, but you didn't validate it, and validation proved something different, right? So that is just testing your assumptions to find out what the customers will. That's a willingness to what they call willingness to pay test. The second thing is you have to give, if you're in a manufacturing or a distribution industry, the earlier you're in the value chain or the further you're from the customer, the more people you need to reward for doing the job of getting the product to the customer. So you need to reward the channel, right? Which is why licensing, you earn the least, but you keep the least headaches because everybody else does the effort of selling and marketing it. The third thing is that back to the point, I think that was a point, who raised the point about, I think it was this Fatima, I can't remember. Somebody raised the point about, Mai raised the point about you telling the customer is a discounted price. So that is when you do a proposal and you put a proposal and you put a price on the proposal, what you're signaling to the customer is value for money, that you've already taken all the things into the account and you've priced it competitively. It's benchmarked against previous things, it's benchmarked against value for money. So you're basically signaling to the customer that you have not inflated the price. So even when they come back to you and ask for a discount, you know that the margin to discuss is very, very little. So that's the one on that. And then Devrim asked something about discounting for different market sectors. And it's called 3rd-degree price discrimination. So Amazon can sell the same product in the UK for £10 and sell the same product in India for 100 rupees, which is £1, simply because you cannot buy from India and sell to the UK. So, right, it's absolutely legal, possible, and it's economically a good thing to sell it at different prices in different markets based on what people can afford to pay. That's all. It's also good practice to have educational discounts out there. So Microsoft will sell you Office products if you're a university user at a different price than you would corporate. So that's also fine, and people accept that. So corporates and educational things don't accept that. So this is the various things you've raised on discount. So the most common area where people can do a discount at early stages in the business is when they launch and they don't give customers. And this is back to Robert's point. And the first reaction is, let's discount the price to grab customers. Now, that may be true, but often it's a mistake, because there are at least 2 or 3 things you want to try before you reach that. Discounting is almost the last step. The first thing you want to check is, are you communicating the true value of the product to the customer? Secondly, is there something functioning or not functioning in your advertising? Are you reaching the customer? Are they aware about you? Are they aware about the value you're creating? And third, have you thought of any behavioral pricing constraints that you're pricing at a different pricing ceiling? They're expecting the price at £3, you're selling it at 15, and there's such a big mismatch that they're not going to buy. There is no customer at that price. So unless you go and test these 3 things first when you've launched, right? Discounting is the last place to go. And I think it was Kevin on the last call we were discounting. You see, once you start discounting, you only discount once and you go downwards, right? It's hard to go back up. That's why you've got to be careful. So to my point, when not to discount is if you have launched and the product hasn't got the revenues and it's a pricing problem, try 2 or 3 things first before resorting to discounting. Number 1. Number 2, discounting is also a cultural norm. We know in the Middle East countries, discounting is expected, right? I know that in GCC countries, discounting is very much expected out there. So what businesses tend to do is exactly what Maya said. You bake it into the price, you take it out into the price. It's a Nash equilibrium, right? You add 5%, you take it out, and it's sort of built into the price because you know you're going to expect it. When you do discount, don't do it simply as bargaining. So avoid what I call bargaining in a marketplace where you're just asking to bring the price down. Do it as a negotiation. So if they say, I want the price to come down by 5%, you said that is fine, but can you make the payment terms immediate? So always do it as a trade-off. Right? You say, yes, I will discount the price 5%. And like in Mahmood's case, you say, but will you buy my annual maintenance contract? Can you extend the annual maintenance contract from 1 year to 3 years? Right? Because then you're doing it as a negotiation rather than as a bargaining or bartering. You're mute, Mahmood.
We are creating a new revenue stream by that.
Exactly, right? So I shared the various business, hi Said, I shared the various business models. Like there's so many ways to do business model, revenue models out there, and which can give you new revenue streams. So yes. In fact, they say that if you're starting out, it's better to give discounts and squeeze margins, give up a little bit of profit for better cash flow, right? Because cash is king in startups. You want to, you can make profits later, but you don't want to run out of money, right? When you're a mature company, you want to make the margins more operationally efficient because the cash flows are reliable. But when you're a young company and cash flows are not reliable, you have to go for revenue first and you've got to go for cash in the bank. So those are the things you negotiate for. If somebody says, give you a discount, you say, okay, then sign a 3-year deal. Or rather than a subscription being paid every month, please give me the year's money in advance. And you'll find that companies who have large budgets don't have a problem giving you that money right away because they budgeted it. But that money in your bank is much more valuable to you than sitting in the company's bank account. So does that help in terms of thinking through discounting, in a slightly different way? Yeah, so I got yes. Anybody else? Good. Hi, Ashara. Good to see a few more faces. Good. Hernandez, right. Lovely. Good. Right, Devon, good. Okay, have I missed anything? So Devram, so let's start with Devram. Devram, CRO, remind me what CRO?
Contract research organization.
Uh-huh.
So instead of selling like a kit or a device, you do the service for them. You do that. So they don't have to involve that or have the like toxicology analysis.
Contract research. So I couldn't hear I couldn't hear a lot of it, but let me replay what I heard. Are you basically talking about cost plus pricing?
Yes. So let's say the company sends you a molecule, they want to test the toxicity of this molecule, and we do all the tests and then give them a report saying this molecule is toxic or not.
Okay. So again, so there are so cost plus pricing, when to do it, when not to, right? So there are some industries which are cost plus, like consulting, like contract manufacturing, or like contract research organization, where they say when you do it, you will be typically, you can either say we'll do it on a time and materials basis, right? And then you will say it's that many labor. So there, the money you make is in the margin that you put on the people out there, and that's probably because you can't do it by value usually, where you can turn around and say if the molecule is toxic, we will charge you X, and the molecule is not toxic, we'll charge you Y, right? But in that thing, what you've also got to build in is the amortized cost of the plant and machinery and the laboratory equipment that is also there out there. So if your establishment costs like $1 million or whatever it might be, and your labor costs are $100,000 per year, again, just arbitrary numbers, you will then amortize the cost of the laboratory, like depreciated over 5 years, and that's your recovery. So that's the overhead plus whatever you're going to do, and that's how you've got to do. So it's almost like project pricing. Yeah, it's like project pricing, bid on assets, bid on machinery, bid on time, and bid on materials. And that's, yeah, for certain industry, that's absolutely in the norm, and that's valid to go. Yeah, but if you are doing outcome-based pricing, that will save you X amount of money, or we will produce Y amount of drugs or something like that, then you can look at pricing differently, because then you can use your innovation to do things better and price on the value the customer receives. Okay, does that kind of make, yeah?
Yeah, what I heard it's very difficult to get an idea of the pricing by a competitor for this kind of job. So it's not like you can go online and look at the price of a machine. But since these are project-based things, like you said, let's say it cost me 100,000 K, but I can say I will do it for 200,000, and it is very difficult, I think, there to set the range.
So one of the things you can do is that if you've got a very good customer, you can ask them to get a quote from your competitor.
Yeah.
And share that. So okay. actually in the online space, a lot of what competitors do is they actually go onto websites and ask for quotes from their competitors, because it's possible, right? So that's market intelligence. That's market intelligence. It's a tricky world. Good. Right. I got next one from Van Faslida. So when it comes to environmental costs, right? What Van is, try and get a stakeholder in your country whose mission is to go net zero, reduce carbon footprint. There will be agencies whose goal is to do that. Find an aligned stakeholder for whom this is a strategic objective. You cannot be the only person pushing the case, right? There must be some agencies, some CSR organization, someone to whom it is important. Get their support and make it a part of the ecosystem. And then you can run it as a pilot. Use grant funding to do that. But again, not for free. Just say, if we show you the results, can we scale it to this thing? Again, it's going back to the discounting. You're not doing it for free, right? Otherwise, it's just a piece of research, right? So have that negotiated discussion beforehand, that if the expected results hit this kind of thing, where can we go out there? Because pilots are hard to run out there. So have that advanced conversation and make sure that you have a stakeholder for whom it's a strategic objective. So again, back to the benefit map that I was showing you. If there's a reduction in pollution or reduction in carbon footprint, there must be some part in the government, right? There's somebody in the government is interested in a green agenda, and that's on the thing. And as a lot of countries focus on 2 or 3 SDGs as a national initiative. For Colombia, I know for sure it's biodiversity, right? The president of Colombia at COP26 talked about that, right? So countries focus, and I think, I don't know, Jordan is water or something like that, right? So countries focus on it. So just find who's the agency in the country for whom this is an important consideration. Get them on your line, on your side. They might even fund your project. There might be a co-funder out there. And the idea is, don't go and do it alone simply because you've got grant money and you can prove an interesting result. Then it's just simply a research project, right? And you want to, and even as an academic, you want to create impact, isn't it? So yeah, right. Okay, what's next? Is discount sometimes kind of a weakness point earlier in the stages? No, I think discounting for startups can be used to a big advantage of collecting customers' cash and putting into your bank account, because you can use customer funded business models out there, right? The best money, who was it? Sorry, Robert was saying it, right? The best money is not grant money. The best money is customers' money. The best money is the customer who pays you in advance for your product or service, right? Is invested in your business, is more interested that you keep alive because he's bought your product, that you don't go out of business, and is validating that what you've got is indeed what they want. So if you can give them a discount and get a commitment for their services get a commitment to buy the service for the next 3 years, that is brilliant. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a strength in a startup. Because startups tend to be more nimble, they run frugally, they can afford to do that. It's only when you have big companies and you have a lot of bosses out there who need big cars where discounting becomes a little more difficult. Okay, what else do we have? Maintenance. What's the best pricing strategy for a successful penetration of market for the first time when you are a new name? And what excels when you compete for market share among a competitive one? The product is a service rather than a product. Right. Talk to me about the first question, because it's not a silver bullet answer, but I'm just saying, is there a particular thing you had in mind when you asked the question?
Okay, yes, of course. I'm having my startup. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I created my MVP. It's a service. Okay, that can help in different use cases. Yet at the same time, it can be directed to businesses or to individuals. I can create a good value proposition for each and in different ways. So I'm now struggling with my strategy. Okay, how to penetrate the market with the best strategy that it's non-expensive to produce the service or the product, because it's an intellectual one, and it mainly depends upon the experience behind and how to to apply it. So it's it's my own experience. So I have a lot of options, and this is very confusing.
I totally agree. So can I move it from pricing strategy to penetrate the market? Can I move it to the question, what's the strategy to penetrate the market?
Yeah,
so remove the word pricing, right? So I think it's
exactly,
a bigger, right?
I hope I'm not deviating
No, but you can ask me other stuff. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. You can ask me about other things. Not a problem. So my question is, what is a good market penetration strategy going into a new market out there? And the answer may or may not be pricing. So in general, and the person who wrote about this was Jeffrey Moore in his book, Crossing the Chasm. In general, when you're entering a new market, you want to identify what they call a beachhead market. And what's a beachhead market is, so beachhead market comes from World War II, where did they land on Normandy to capture in World War II? So it's a market which is small enough for you to dominate, big enough to matter, and the people in there talk to each other about it so that they can refer your product. Okay, let me say that again.
Yeah.
You don't want to sell to one customer in Bahrain, one in Bangladesh, and one in Bloomingdale in New York, because they don't talk to each other. They won't refer out there. So you want to go into a market that is concentrated enough where you can become dominant in a small town. That means you define a narrow segment where you can enter because your resources are limited, right? So it's called a beachhead market. You can Google it, right? It's small enough for you to sort of enter and dominate, big enough for you to make an impact, right? And the customers refer each other, because you can only get that much traction by talking to the customers who will listen to you. The other customers will only buy when they see other customers using your product. So the referencing becomes a very, very important thing. So I think that's a more important thing to decide what the pricing. So it's more a market entry strategy rather than a market pricing strategy, I think, what you wanted to get at, right? So that's what.
Great. And in this case, the B2B is better, or the B2C, which is easier?
B2B. So you can do it B2B, because whenever you sell B2B, this is the tricky part, right? They say, please tell us where else have you sold this product?
Yeah.
And you say, yes, sir, who's going to buy it for the first time?
Yeah. This is another bad part of the B2B, that any business wants to make revenue for himself, not for you. So as much as possible, he's gonna be, not easily paying, and not I think they will, if they can, they will not pay money to try something new. Okay, even if you convince them that it will benefit you on the long run, maybe they don't want at all to lose anything at the short run. So this is another.
No, I totally agree with you. So we ran a session on digital marketing a little while ago. So it's very interesting. So there is a company, and this is it's a common example. If you are confident you can bring your customers savings, right, or get them results because you have a reliable, repeatable process to do it, you can run them a free trial and say, we will get you $500 worth of free results out there, right? And once you do that and they've observed the saving, they can sign up for more, and you can negotiate that. And you can say, if we can get you that and we won't charge you, and if that's a success, will you go for the larger thing? That is perfectly the same thing like Van was saying, right? If you can get the person on the side out there. So if you are confident of demonstrating your value, because it doesn't cost you that much to do, but it brings savings or value to the customer, that's
okay. Yeah. This agreement, can I? You tell me what's called? Yeah, this kind of agreement. What can I call it?
Well, it's called a free trial. It's called a pilot.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm now working on what I'm calling commercial piloting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you help me to document this, to have a written agreement that can, okay, you know, put a frame for this kind of pilots in order to be able to reproduce it with different kinds of customers?
Well, not immediately, but I think if you do a Google and come up with something, bang it across to an email, very happy to sort of tweak it and get that back to you. I mean, I don't have a contract. I don't have a free pilot contract.
Never mind. It's all right.
Yeah.
Okay,
but hold on.
Yeah.
Just remember something. It's always a conversation first with the customer and agreement, and then documentation.
Yeah, but I like the experience of documentation. So I'd like to have any even case study that others have done it, just to to take the sense, okay, of how it could be documented in a way to convince the other side that it's really there is this trust that we have a process with a start and an end. Okay, we can put metrics, we can put options, okay, a frame, a respectable frame.
That's more, so that usually cannot go into a contract, right? That usually is the first step. Is okay, I'll run a pilot, let's discuss the results, because so that's still more trust-based rather than contractual.
Okay, it's
not a perform. Because in a contract is usually performance-based contract, which means you're already getting commercial benefits. You're already getting paid for it. Then it may be a performance-based thing. But if you're doing something for free, yeah.
Is it the letter of intent?
You can do it in letter of intent. Yeah, you can do it letter of intent. Yeah.
Okay, this would be more appropriate for a commercial pilot.
It could be more appropriate for a commercial pilot, but again, it's based on the relationship and the trust you have with the customer, that if you get the results, you can get out there.
If an entity signed for me a letter of intent, is he a partner now?
No, he's a customer.
He's
a prospective customer. But history shows if people sign letter of intent, they usually follow through. So it's very good to get that commitment.
Okay, thank you. I took a lot of your time. Thank you.
No. But they are a potential customer, not a partner, not a business partner. They're a potential customer, depending on the right. Sorry, I'm going to come back to you. Anybody else wants to just go have a question before I come back to? Right. Yeah.
There were a couple of questions above, but we are already by time. Maybe we
guys. So the first thing I want to. So it's a very good point. Participant is hand. Can you guys stay on a little more? And I'm very happy to stay on another 10-15 minutes and continue the discussion if it's of value to you. Some of you may not be able to stay. That's fine too. But can I just share something just on the screen for what's happening next week? So we are having the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, and you may have received a note from me and Nadira, either me or Nadira, about it. It's a fantastic event because for some of you, it will show you that some of the universities are building accelerators to promote innovations that are related to disabilities. UCL has got one of those, so that's one of the panelists out there. And they are actually working with some of the academy, LIF people and Africa Prize people, and getting them data, clients, customers, manufacturing facilities, right? So that's a very good, it's about thinking about the ecosystem. It's also about raising the awareness about disability, of how universities are making massive adjustments in handling the student population. And we got some very senior people. Head of Disability Support in King's. It's Disability Month and International Disability Day on the 3rd of December. This is on the 8th. Nadira shared a link in the chat, and I'd really like all of you to come and be there and part of it. And we will also have 3 LIF innovators out there as a part of the panel. So we'll have a panel of 6 people. It'll be a great session. At a minimum, we will learn a lot more, that that literally 1/7 of our population lives with disability and we don't know about it. But what are both the challenges and the opportunities in this, and what is the role that we can play in it, right? So I did want to take this one opportunity of sharing that with you. And it's the last event that we are running for this year, right? So Chantel, Kathy, and Barry are going to be out there. Great universities in the UK and great LIF innovators. And we're going to have a very, very interesting 1-hour session, 8th of December at 2 p.m. And you can share this wider to your colleagues. And I think, Ran, thank you so much for doing that. Right, people have. So please share this in your universities, colleagues, and friends out there. It's an academy event. It's the first really big, wide open event we're doing. We did one last year on bootstrapping out there, right? Where we opened it to the public as a public event. So let's, the academy does a lot of innovation work, a lot of supporting of innovative work in this area of disability and assistive technologies. So I would love you to share this wider. Right, Robert, do you adjust pricing based on the frequency of payment? Pay in advance, pay now, monthly, quarterly, yearly? What would be good competition on time value of money? Very, very good question, Robert. Right. So yes, reward the customer for giving you all their money up front. Right, not a problem. And really in startup business, time value of money is not 3% or 4%, because in startup businesses, which are more risky, time value of money is more like 20%, right? So if you can offer customer 5%, we give you a 5% discount if you pay us all in advance, fantastic. If you're in the B2C space, is you sign up people on a subscription basis on a monthly. That's pretty reliable because people don't tend to switch off those services easily. B2B, you can sort of get it as an annual fee, or basically make sure it's built into a budget. So yes, it's okay to give. This is where discounting is valuable, because you're giving something that you can afford to give for something that's a lot more valuable to you, which is cash. So yeah, it's absolutely great question. Would it be just a so yeah, it is time value of money, but not the classical discounted cash flow that you do in corporate situations, right? So we've got the link out there. It's a free event, right? Some files are shared during the session. Is it possible to have them in an email after the session? The same for the links. So which file, sorry? Are you talking about the slide presentation?
I think you said that you shared an article, or you will share an article.
I've already shared that. So if you attended the last session, I've already that article on the article on value proposition, quantifying value proposition, already shared.
Yes, I attended the last session.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'll create a Dropbox link with all the resources in one space, recording of the link, recording of this session, recording of the other session, articles. I know you received my email. I'm going to create one Dropbox link, unless Juliana is going to tell me that there's a place in Hivebright to do it, right? Whatever it is. But yeah, we're ready to make it this thing. I think it might be a good idea, Juliana, to make sure that people register on Hivebright. We might put it there. So Maya's asked the next question. What's the difference between beachhead market and niche markets? Right. Selling manga comics, Japanese manga comics produced between 1970 and 1975 in Tokyo is a niche market. It's a very specific product that appeals to a very small set of customers out there. But for them, it's a very, very important thing. That's really a niche market. So that's what I would say, a niche market, right? So hobbyists, records, they're like a niche market. Okay, so that's what is now I would call a niche market. So very specific products for very specific set of customers. It's not a very large set of customer base out there. A beachhead market is a market that you have classified that is easy for you to conquer.
Okay,
right?
okay,
Yeah.
Okay. For example, autistics. It's a niche market, or it's a beachhead market?
Autistic.
Autistic individuals. Okay, and I'm having a product for autistic.
Yeah.
For example, so this is a niche market, or it's a beachhead market?
Okay, so sorry, a beachhead market is a market penetration strategy. It is not, it can be applied to any market. A niche market could be how specific your product, right? A beachhead market is basically a market penetration strategy. So let me give you
the boundaries. Okay, the boundaries for a beachhead could be a country or
yeah. So
or a service,
I'm
a certain service that many businesses are, many companies are producing the same service, so they are doing the same service in different ways, and so they can circulate this new tool that can be used.
So I'll give you an example of a company that's launched in London. And you can Google it. It's called GetDad, GETDAD.co.uk. It's a very simple, so it's a food delivery service. And it gives vegan gluten-free lunches at home for £4.85, which is a very, very good price out there as compared to what you would. Now, it's a niche product because it's targeted the people who've been working at home during coronavirus. It's a niche product because it's only lunch. It's a niche product, niche market because it's only one item per day, right? Now, so that's how they define their value proposition, but you can book it 3 weeks in advance and you don't have to think about what to get for lunch. Now, how they launched was very interesting. They launched only in one borough, which is like one area in London at one time. And they went and they put leaflets through every door out there. And when one person got the leaflet and tried the food, he told his neighbor. They didn't even do any digital advertising, right? So they went into one market, concentrated to get enough business to then move on to the neighboring boroughs. So even today, I don't know if we can just quickly do it. We can just, sorry. Maybe if I get Google up and fire it up, get that. There you are. Can you see that?
Yeah.
We deliver to Islington, Camden, Hackney, Westminster, and City of London out there, E1 and E3. There are 33 boroughs in London, and they're only supplying to 5 of them. Because they go to one, they do really well in that, they get optimizing, the drivers are not running all over the place. When they've got enough business, then they go to the second one, then they go to the third one. So they're literally growing step by step. So whatever was the first borough they went to, whether it was Islington or Camden, was their beachhead market. Right? They did not spread themselves too thin. They basically had a very specific market entry strategy. That's what it's called.
Okay, this is both. It's a niche and it's a beachhead, isn't it? It's a niche because it's only one.
It's a niche and it's a beachhead, absolutely. And beachhead is their marketing strategy, right? Now, if they get well funded, 5 years from now, they're $1 billion company and they're on all the cities in the UK. And thank goodness Birmingham will eat better for it, right? Because the food is awful there. Then they're beyond the beachhead stage, right? Because then they are mainstream. But beachhead is essentially a market entry strategy.
It reduces the expenses. This beachhead strategy.
Because resources are limited.
In order not to have, not to lose money until you can compensate your expenses. Then you have got revenue, so you go to another market and you widen it. Isn't it?
Yeah, and so they don't need 35 drivers. Their driver comes on a cycle, right? And he goes door to door delivering, right? And there's eco-friendly and all that stuff, right? He comes on a cycle. In London, he comes on a cycle. He's not in a bike, he's not in a car or whatever. So that's how they deliver.
And when we speak about the niche, it's more related to the product itself.
More related to the product and the customer needs. It's probably an extreme user.
Yes, exactly.
Like I'm an extreme user. I'm gluten-free, right? So I'm an extreme user, right? So
perfect. Thank you.
Good. And that brings me to a wonderful closure of the last bit of the slides that I wanted to do. Thank you, Saeed. You read my mind. A value proposition is not a winning proposition, right? And so this is the slide that I want you to basically understand. The cost, and a lot of people have asked about it. A lot of people, as Fatima has asked about it, Devram has asked about it. The cost of producing your services is the floor of what your price can go down to. The value to the customer is the ceiling, right? Your customer will rarely pay you more than the value you deliver to them. and your price is somewhere in the middle. Now, if you price very close to your cost, you are unhappy, your customer is very happy. If you price very high to this thing, your customer is very unhappy because it's hard to convince the value to the service, because value to the customer is a very subjective assessment. You have to convince the customer that's the value. Whereas your price is very concrete, it's written. So even you may be very happy, but you may get very few customers in this. So you need to find your balance as to what it is. And usually your competition will help you drive that, because they will already set their own benchmark. Now, the trouble is, what's the trouble with this? What's the problem here? When we do cost plus pricing.
I can't compete for a long time, I think.
Right? You can't compete for a long time, and it can leave you vulnerable. So if something goes wrong and reduce your margin, you basically become unprofitable. So it's a good check. Whenever you price, there's no one way to price. You price based on what it costs. You price based on what the value is. You find a middle ground, and then you look at the competition. So you've got to look at a number of ways to come up with the pricing, and you've got to look at what does it cost the customer to solve the problem without your product and service, which is the quantified value proposition. And that's how you do it, right? So you price using number of different methods and then find what is the happy price you can put out there. Pricing only on cost base could leave too much value on the table. And if you just think that life goes by 20%, the first thing that goes wrong in the business, and you start losing money in this particular thing. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right. So is it better to, so Saeed, the short answer is better on value. So if you're in the same business as I remember it to be, it could be, part of it is emotional. Yeah, there you are. Part of it is emotional benefits of people having green thumbs, being hobbyists, growing their own food and zero carbon footprint. For restaurant owners and warehouses, it could be all the other stuff of not having to pay third parties to do it, all that good stuff out there. So ladies and gentlemen, we are well past the 15 past the hour past out there. Sinta, thank you so much. It was just a really, really, really interesting discussion out there. I really enjoyed it, and it was just absolutely great to have the full engagement there. Like I said, we are here to support you. You've got the email address, you've got the thing you want to throw across the wall and have a look. This thing, no problem. Just throw it. Send us an email. You want to have a look. If you got something, like I said, what we can do is curate you and direct you to the things. The Google, the world is there for you to do the research. What we want to help you is not go down the wrong path out there, right? And just share with you some of the practices out there. So how many of you am I going to see next Wednesday? Good. Have you registered?
No, still not.
All right, then. All right, good. Do it.
Not
Okay.
yet.
Right. So we've got, so that's the last event for the year. And the next one that's happening is the 11th of January. And we will share the details out there. And that's productivity, time management, and avoiding burnout. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Juliana, over to you if you just want to say any last closing words.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to actually revise and review and apply the knowledge that we got from you last Wednesday. So I hope you find this useful, and I hope to see you in further events. And yes, do give us a shout if you have any ideas also and anything that you want to share. You can sign up for our platform, LIF Innovators, if you haven't already done so. And connect with your friends, your peers, collaborate with them, and engage with us as well. And great to see what you have achieved so far, and looking forward to what you're going to achieve next. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you. And I think so. We'll find a way of putting all the resources in one place.
Yes.
And it might be that you might need to activate your registration on Highbright, maybe, right? That might be the,
Yes.
right. All right.
Yes. Join
All
LIF
right.
Innovators. You'll
All
find
right.
it. It's
Yeah,
very
sorry,
good.
LIF Innovator. So the
Yeah,
new
yeah.
platform's called LIF Innovators. Can I just
Yes.
check you've registered on it? You've activated your registration?
Have you? LIF 7 has, but I'm not sure about the others. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so maybe the country champions or the, yeah.
Yes.
Right. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you. See you next time. See you next Wednesday. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.